"You're too fat to be loved." My husband whispered that before leaving for work. I followed him. He kissed me goodbye like every morning, the same routine we'd had for 15 years. But that day, as he pulled away, he whispered something I wasn't supposed to hear. "You're too fat to be loved." I stood frozen in the doorway, pretending I hadn't heard. But something broke inside me. Something shifted. When he drove away for work, I did something I'd never done before. I followed him, heart pounding, hands shaking on the steering wheel. What I discovered that day shattered more than just my trust. Behind that routine lie, behind those late nights at the office, was a secret life I never could have imagined. And I wasn't the only one he was hiding from. This is the story of the day I followed my husband and discovered the truth that changed everything. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, discovery, and finding strength when casual cruelty becomes the catalyst. My name is Jennifer Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and the morning of April 15th started like any other morning in my 15-year marriage, until my husband whispered 5 words that changed everything. "You're too fat to be loved." He said it so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Almost, but I did. And in that moment, standing in the doorway of our Seattle home, watching him walk to his car like nothing had happened, something inside me broke. Or maybe it didn't break. Maybe it woke up. This is the story of what happened when I followed my husband to work that day, and what I discovered about his secret life, and about myself. Let me back up. My husband, David Hayes, is a financial consultant, or that's what he told me. Successful, charming, always impeccably dressed. We met when I was 23 and he was 26, both young professionals in Seattle's tech boom era. I was thin then, size 4, maybe size 6 on a bad week. Long hair, confident smile. David pursued me relentlessly. Flowers, surprise dates, elaborate romantic gestures. I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. We got married after 2 years of dating. Picture-perfect wedding on the Sound. Honeymoon in Bali. The whole fairy tale. The weight gain started gradually. First pregnancy at 27. Gained 40 pounds, lost 25. Second pregnancy at 30. Gained 45 pounds, lost 20. By 35, I was carrying an extra 60 pounds from my wedding day. Size 16, sometimes size 18, depending on the brand. I tried. God knows I tried. Diets, gym memberships I used for 3 weeks before life got too busy, home workout videos, meal prep plans that fell apart when work got stressful or the kids got sick. David never said anything directly. Not at first. Just small comments. "Maybe skip dessert tonight? That dress is a little tight, don't you think? My colleague's wife just lost 30 pounds. She looks amazing. Death by 1,000 cuts." That's what it felt like. But that morning, April 15th, was different. David came downstairs for breakfast like always. Navy suit, crisp white shirt, expensive cologne. Our kids, Emma, 11, and Lucas, 8, were already at the table eating cereal. I'd made David's usual. Black coffee, whole wheat toast, scrambled egg whites, trying to be the good wife, the supportive wife. He ate quickly, checking his phone constantly. "Big meeting today," he said. "Might be late tonight." It was always a big meeting. Always late nights. I'd stopped questioning it years ago. He kissed the kids goodbye. "Be good for Mom." Then he came to me, kissed my forehead, the perfunctory kiss of long marriage. And as he pulled away so quietly I almost missed it, he whispered, "You're too fat to be loved." Then he walked out the door. I stood there frozen. The kids were arguing about something. I couldn't even hear what. The sound of David's car starting in the driveway. The garage door closing. Had I imagined it? No. I knew what I'd heard. "You're too fat to be loved." Not, "I love you." Not, "Have a good day." Not even nothing. That. Something snapped inside me. Or clicked into place. I'm not sure which. I dropped the kids at school like always. Smiled at the other moms. Made small talk about the bake sale. Acted normal. But I wasn't normal. My hands were shaking. My mind was racing. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built together, and he thought I was too fat to be loved. The rational part of my brain said, "Don't be dramatic." He was probably just stressed. Having a bad morning didn't mean it. But the other part, the part that had been quietly noting the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the emotional distance. That part said, follow him. So I did. David's office was downtown Seattle, in one of those sleek glass towers near Pike Place Market. I knew the address. I'd been there for company holiday parties, but instead of going home after dropping the kids at school, I drove downtown, parked across the street from his building, and waited. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad TV movie, staking out my own husband, but I waited anyway. 30 minutes passed. An hour. I was about to give up, feeling foolish, questioning my sanity, when I saw David's car pull out of the underground garage. It was 10:30 a.m. His big meeting had supposedly started at 9. I followed him. David drove north, out of downtown, toward the Ballard neighborhood. I stayed several cars back, heart pounding, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. He turned onto a residential street. Tree-lined, quiet, modest but well-kept houses. He pulled into the driveway of a small blue craftsman-style home, and a woman came out to greet him. She was younger than me, maybe early 30s, blonde, slender, wearing yoga pants and a tank top, objectively beautiful. She ran down the porch steps and threw her arms around David. He picked her up, spinning her around like they were in a romantic comedy. Then he kissed her. Not a peck. A real kiss. The kind of kiss he used to give me when we were dating. I watched from my car, parked down the street, feeling like I couldn't breathe. 15 years of marriage, and here was my husband, kissing another woman in broad daylight. But I didn't drive away. I didn't confront them. I just watched. They went inside together. The door closed. The street was quiet again. I sat in my car for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. An affair. David was having an affair. That's why he was always late. Why he was always on his phone. Why he'd been so distant. And that woman, she was everything I wasn't. Thin, young, energetic. You're too fat to be loved. Now it made sense. I should leave. I should confront him. I should do something. But I just sat there, paralyzed. And then, something unexpected happened. Another car pulled up. A Toyota sedan. A man got out. 40s, casual clothes, concerned expression. He walked up to the blue house and knocked on the door. The blonde woman answered. They talked for a moment. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Then the man looked angry. The woman looked defensive. David appeared behind her, and the man punched David in the face. I watched in shock as David stumbled backwards. The man was yelling. I still couldn't make out the words, but he was furious. The blonde woman was crying, trying to pull the man away. David was holding his face, blood dripping from his nose. It was chaos, and I had no idea what was happening. The man finally left, peeling out of the driveway. The blonde woman pulled David inside, closing the door. The street was quiet again. My phone rang. I jumped, nearly dropping it. It was my best friend, Rebecca. Hey, are you still on for coffee tomorrow? I can't talk right now. Jen? Are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. I'll call you back. I hung up. What the hell was going on? I made a decision. A crazy decision. I got out of my car and walked up to that blue house. Knocked on the door. The blonde woman answered, red-eyed from crying. When she saw me, her face went white. Who are you? She asked. I'm Jennifer, David's wife. I've never seen someone look so confused and horrified at the same time. David's... what? Behind her, I heard David's voice. Oh my God. He appeared in the doorway holding a bloody towel to his nose. When he saw me, all color drained from his face. Jen, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing. The blonde woman looked between us. Wait, you're married? David, you told me you were divorced. Now it was my turn to be confused. Divorced? He said he got divorced 2 years ago, that he had kids but they lived with his ex-wife. That's what you told me, David. David stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish. No words came out. Who was that man? I asked. The one who just punched you? The blonde woman's face crumpled. That's my husband. We're separated, but God, this is such a mess. Arthur Chapter 2, The Unraveling, When One Lie Reveals 1,000 More. We all ended up inside that house. Me, David, and the blonde woman whose name I learned was Ashley. Ashley was shaking. David was holding his bloody nose. I was surprisingly calm, that eerie calm that comes when shock is so complete that emotions shut down temporarily. Someone needs to explain what's going on, I said. Right now. Ashley spoke first. I met David 8 months ago at a coffee shop in Ballard. He was charming, successful, said he'd been divorced for 2 years. We started dating. I thought this was real. She looked at David with betrayal in her eyes. You're still married. You lied about everything. Not everything, David said weakly. Shut up, I said. The coldness in my voice surprised even me. You don't get to talk yet. I turned to Ashley. You said you're separated from your husband? She nodded. Mark and I split up 6 months ago. It's complicated. We're working through custody arrangements for our daughter. When David came along, I thought it was a fresh start. Someone who understood what I was going through. Because he told you he was divorced. Yes. I looked at David. So you've been living a double life. Coming to this house when you're supposed to be at work. Telling her you're divorced. Telling me you're working late. David finally lowered the towel from his nose. Jen, I can explain. I don't want explanations. I want facts. How long has this been going on? 8 months. And you've been telling her you're divorced for all 8 months? Yes. While coming home to me and our children every night? Yes. Ashley made a choking sound. Oh my God. Your children. You talk about them like you barely see them. Like they're distant. But you live with them. You see them every day. David said nothing. I felt strangely detached from the whole scene. Like I was watching it happen to someone else. This morning, I said quietly, when you left for work, you whispered something to me. Do you remember what you said? David's face went pale. Jen, I didn't mean... You said, you're too fat to be loved. That's what you said to your wife, the mother of your children, before you drove here to be with her. Ashley gasped. He said that to you? He did. Ashley turned to David, disgust written across her face. What kind of person says that to someone? I was stressed, David stammered. I didn't mean it. It just came out. It came out because that's what you really think, I said. The calmness was starting to crack. I could feel rage building underneath. Isn't it? I gained weight after having your children, and you stopped seeing me as a person worth loving. So you found someone else. Someone who looks the way you want. That's not why... Then why, David? Why the affair? Why the lies? Why string both of us along? He had no answer. Ashley stood up. I think you both should leave. I need to figure out what I'm going to tell Mark. And I need you out of my house. This is your house? I asked. Yes. He's been staying here sometimes, telling me he travels for work. God, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You're a victim, like me. We looked at each other. 2 women who'd been lied to, manipulated, used by the same man. I'm sorry, Ashley said. I had no idea he was still married. If I'd known, I believe you. I turned to David. Get your things. Whatever you have here. You're not coming back. Jen, we need to talk. No, we don't. Not here, not now. Maybe not ever. But you're going to tell me everything. And then I'm going to decide what happens next. Matat. There we drove separately back to our house, David following my car like a funeral procession. I texted Rebecca. Need you. Emergency. Can you come over? She responded immediately. On my way. When we got home, David tried to start explaining, but I held up my hand. Wait until Rebecca gets here. I want a witness to whatever you're about to say. He nodded miserably. Rebecca arrived 15 minutes later. One look at my face, and she knew something catastrophic had happened. What's going on? David's been having an affair for 8 months. He's been living a double life. I followed him this morning and discovered everything. Rebecca's mouth fell open. She turned to David with pure fury. You piece of... Please, David said. Let me explain. Go ahead, I said. Explain. What so? What came out over the next hour was a story of lies, compartmentalization, and a man who'd constructed an entirely separate reality. David had met Ashley 8 months ago, exactly as she'd said. He'd been attracted to her immediately. She was going through a divorce, vulnerable, and yes, thin. He'd created an elaborate fiction, that he was divorced, that he rarely saw his kids, that he traveled frequently for work. He'd been spending 3 or 4 days a week with her, telling me he was at the office or traveling for business. How did I not know? I asked. How did I not see this? Because you trusted me, Rebecca said bitterly. Because you're not a suspicious person. Because you had no reason to think your husband was living a completely false life. And the money? I asked David. You've been supporting 2 households? He nodded. I've been using business expenses, cash advances on credit cards. It's been a financial nightmare. Oh, you poor thing, Rebecca said sarcastically. Maintaining your affair has been financially difficult for you. Why? I asked. It was the only question that mattered. Why did you do this? If you were unhappy, if you wanted out of the marriage, why not just leave? David was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Because I didn't want to be the bad guy. I didn't want to be the one who left his family. But I also didn't want to stay. So I created this middle ground, where I could have both lives. And this morning, when you told me I was too fat to be loved, he looked ashamed. I was frustrated, angry at myself, guilty, and I took it out on you. It was cruel and unforgivable. It was, I agreed. But here's what I don't understand, David. You say you were frustrated and guilty. But if that's true, why keep doing it? Why keep lying? Why not just end one relationship or the other? Because I'm a coward, he said simply. I'm a coward who wanted everything and didn't care who got hurt. At least he was being honest about something. Rebecca stayed with me that night. I made David sleep in the guest room, partially because I couldn't stand to be near him, partially because I needed time to think. The kids came home from school and after-school activities. They knew something was wrong. Kids always know. But I told them we'd talk about it later. After they went to bed, Rebecca and I sat in the kitchen with wine. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know. Divorce him, obviously. But beyond that, I just don't know. Do you want to try to work it out? No. God, no. He looked me in the eye and told me I was too fat to be loved, then drove to another woman's house. There's no coming back from that. Good. Because you deserve so much better. I started crying then. Finally. The shock was wearing off and the pain was setting in. He's right, though. I sobbed. I am fat. I've gained so much weight. I've let myself go. Maybe if I'd tried harder... Stop, Rebecca said firmly. Don't you dare blame yourself for his choices. You carried and birthed his children. You've been raising them, managing the household, working part-time. You've been living a full, complex life. And yes, your body changed. Bodies change. That's normal. That's human. But, no buts. His affair isn't about your weight. It's about his character. Plenty of men love their wives at any size. He's just not one of them. And that's his failure, not yours. I wanted to believe her. But years of David's comments, of feeling inadequate, of seeing the disappointment in his eyes when he looked at me, that doesn't just disappear. Chapter 3, The Transformation. When betrayal becomes liberation. The next few weeks were brutal. David moved out, into a budget hotel, since Ashley had made it clear he wasn't welcome at her place. I filed for divorce. We told the kids, which was the hardest conversation of my life. Emma, my 11-year-old, cried, Is it because of us? No, baby. Never. This is between your dad and me. You and Lucas did nothing wrong. Is Dad going to live with us anymore? No, but he'll still see you. We'll work out a schedule. Lucas, at 8, didn't fully understand, but Dad said he was just working a lot. Dad made some choices that hurt our family, and now we need to make some changes. It was the sanitized version. Someday, when they're older, maybe they'll learn the full truth. Or maybe not. I'm still deciding. Ashley reached out to me 2 weeks later. We met for coffee, an awkward, unexpected meeting between the wife and the mistress. I've been in therapy, she said, trying to process everything. My therapist suggested I might benefit from talking to you. Why? Because we were both victims of the same person. And maybe there's something healing in acknowledging that. We talked for 2 hours. About David, about how he'd manipulated both of us, about the lies he'd told. But we also talked about other things. Ashley was a nurse. She'd been married for 8 years before her separation. She had a 6-year-old daughter. She'd believed David when he said he was divorced because why would she question it? He was so convincing, she said, so detailed in his lies. He had answers for everything. He's had practice. I said bitterly. Do you think there were others? Before me? I'd been wondering the same thing. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe you were the first. Either way, the marriage was already broken. I just didn't want to see it. I'm sorry, Ashley said. For my part in this. I know I didn't know, but still, you don't need to apologize. You were lied to. Just like me. We're not enemies. And we weren't. If anything, we were allies in understanding the man who'd betrayed us both. But the most important transformation was happening within me. I started therapy. A therapist specializing in betrayal trauma and self-esteem. I needed to process not just David's affair, but years of subtle put-downs and emotional abuse. Your husband engaged in a pattern of behavior designed to make you feel inadequate, my therapist explained. The comments about your weight, the comparisons to other women, that's emotional manipulation. It keeps you off balance, insecure, easier to control. So it wasn't just about the affair? The affair was a symptom. The real problem was how he saw you, and how he wanted you to see yourself. That realization was both devastating and liberating. I started going to the gym, not because I wanted to lose weight for David or anyone else, but because I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to reclaim my body as my own. I hired a personal trainer, a woman named Sarah who specialized in working with women recovering from trauma. We're not here to make you thin, she said on our first session. We're here to make you strong, physically and mentally. Your body is capable of amazing things. Let's find out what those things are. We worked on strength training, weights, resistance, building muscle, getting stronger. And slowly, very slowly, I started feeling different. Not necessarily thinner, though I did lose some weight, but stronger, more capable, more present in my own body. I also started writing. I'd always loved writing but had stopped years ago when life got busy. Now I started a blog about my experience. I called it The Weight of Lies, a double meaning about body image and dishonesty. I wrote about David's betrayal, about body shaming, about society's expectations of women's bodies, about the pressure to be thin, young, perfect. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of women reached out with their own stories, of husbands who'd shamed them, of affairs discovered, of the journey to reclaim their sense of self-worth. You're not alone, I wrote in one post. There are thousands of us, women who've been told we're not enough, who've been betrayed by people who promised to love us, who've believed the lies about our worth being tied to our appearance. But here's the truth, we are enough. We always were. And the people who couldn't see that, that's their failure, not ours. The blog went viral. I was invited to speak on podcasts, write articles, share my story publicly. It was terrifying and empowering at the same time. 6 months after I discovered David's double life, the divorce was finalized. I got the house, primary custody of the kids. A fair financial settlement, though David's reckless spending on his affair had depleted our savings significantly. He got visitation rights and a rented apartment across town. On the day the divorce was final, I felt relief. Not happiness exactly, but relief. Like a weightlifting. Rebecca took me out to celebrate. To the end of a toxic chapter, she toasted. And to the beginning of a better one, I added. David tried to reconcile about 4 months after I discovered everything. He showed up at the house one evening, after the kids were in bed. Jen, I've been thinking. Maybe we gave up too quickly. Maybe we could try therapy. Work through this. I almost laughed. You're serious? I am. I made mistakes. Huge mistakes. But we have 15 years together. 2 kids. A history. That has to count for something. It does count for something. It counts as 15 years I can't get back. Years where I trusted you and you lied to me. Where I questioned my worth because of your cruelty. Where I built my life around someone who was building a second life without me. I know I hurt you. You didn't just hurt me, David. You destroyed my ability to trust. You taught our kids that lies are acceptable if they're convenient. You showed me exactly who you are. Someone who cares more about his own comfort than about the people he's supposed to love. People change. I can change. Maybe. But I don't want to be around to find out. I deserve someone who doesn't need to change to treat me with basic decency. And more importantly, I deserve to learn how to be happy on my own, without anyone. He left. I haven't seen him since except for kid exchanges. Smaigi, Emma asked me recently, Mom, are you lonely? We were making dinner together, pasta, her favorite. She's perceptive, my daughter, sees more than I give her credit for. Sometimes, I admitted, but lonely isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just quiet, and after a lot of noise, quiet can be nice. Do you think you'll date again? Maybe. Someday. When I'm ready. But right now I'm focusing on me, on you and Lucas, on building a life I actually want. I think that's smart. Yeah? Yeah. Dad wasn't very nice to you. I noticed. Even before we knew about everything. My heart broke a little. I'm sorry you had to see that. It's okay, I'm just glad you're happier now. And the thing is, I am happier. Not perfectly happy, not without struggles, but genuinely happier than I was in that marriage. My body hasn't transformed into society's ideal. I'm still plus size, still shopping in sections of stores labeled with euphemisms like women's or curvy, but I'm strong. I can deadlift 150 pounds, do 30 push-ups, run 3 miles without stopping. My body, the same body David said was too fat to be loved, is capable and powerful and mine. And that's worth more than being thin ever could be. Sach DBO Epilogue. A year after discovering David's double life, I was invited to speak at a women's conference in Portland about body image and self-worth. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of women, I told my story, the whole story, David's whispered cruelty, following him, discovering the affair, the divorce, the recovery. For years, I told them, I believed the lie that my worth was tied to my appearance, that if I could just be thinner, prettier, younger, then I'd be worthy of love. My husband reinforced that lie every day, with comments, comparisons, and ultimately, betrayal. But here's what I learned. The problem was never my body. The problem was that I gave someone else power over how I saw myself. I let someone else define my worth. And when I took that power back, when I decided that I alone get to determine my value, everything changed. I'm not here to tell you to leave your partners or that all relationships are doomed. I'm here to tell you that you are enough, right now, in the body you have, with the face you have, at the age you are. And anyone who tells you otherwise, anyone who uses your appearance to control you, diminish you, or justify their own bad behavior, that person doesn't deserve you. The audience stood and applauded. Afterward, dozens of women came up to share their own stories. One woman, probably in her 60s, grabbed my hands. I stayed with a man who talked to me the way your husband talked to you, for 40 years. I wish I'd had your courage to leave. It's not too late, I told her. It's never too late to choose yourself. She started crying. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I still live in that house in Seattle, the house where David whispered those cruel words before leaving for his secret life. But it's different now. Lighter. The walls have been repainted, new furniture, pictures of just me and the kids, no couple photos, no family portraits that included him. It's our house now, mine and Emma's and Lucas's, a home built on honesty instead of lies. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning, April 15th, the day David whispered, "You're too fat to be loved." And I realize, he was wrong. I am loved. By my children, who see me as strong and brave. By my friends, who rallied around me. By readers of my blog who found their own strength in my story. And most importantly, I'm loved by myself. I look in the mirror and see someone who survived, who chose herself, who built a new life from the ashes of betrayal. That woman? She's beautiful, powerful, worthy, and she always was. David just couldn't see it. That was always his loss, never mine. Arsirar. My daughter Emma wrote something for a school assignment recently. The prompt was, "Someone you admire." She brought it home and showed me. I admire my mom because she's strong. Not just like lifting weights strong, though she is that too, but strong in her heart. Something bad happened in our family, and my mom could have been sad forever, but instead, she decided to be happy. She goes to the gym, she writes about helping other people, and she shows me and my brother that we can be strong too. My mom taught me that being beautiful isn't about being skinny. It's about being brave and kind and true. That's why I admire her. I cried when I read it. Happy tears this time, because that's the real transformation. Not the weight I lost or didn't lose, not the divorce or the new life. It's that my daughter sees strength when she looks at me. She sees resilience. She sees a woman who chose herself. And someday, when she faces her own challenges, and she will, because life is full of them, she'll remember that she comes from strength. That's the real victory.